This episode of Helluva Boss emphasizes the struggles of bisexuality. It shouldn't be surprising that this show dives into the discussion of bisexual representation. After all, the show does explore sexuality in a more in-your-face approach, to put it lightly. But this is the first time we actually explore the struggles of being a part of the LGBT+ community. Seeing that the first tackling of this is based on the issues bisexuals deal with, I was incredibly intrigued since I am bisexual myself. It's rare to see an episode based on bisexuality, so I'm very excited to take a deep dive in X's and O's. Or is it ooze? I don't really know.
Millie, honey, everything okay?
Yeah, just bumped into an ex.
Oh!
Ah, yes. My favorite thing to see when it comes to building a strong episode. Seed planting. The beginning of this episode lays out all the pieces that will have an impact in this plot. First thing is going to be focusing on Moxxie and Millie, since they were the main ones talking within the scene, while Luna literally had no lines whatsoever. Not even any sighs or grunts when the characters interact with her. So we know her contribution is going to be non-existent. Getting back to Moxxie and Millie, Millie's rage is referencing an ex who clearly is not a good dude by any sense of the imagination. With him being more wealthy and on his way to having a better life, and bragging about his package, if you catch my drift. What's also interesting here is today's client that Blitz was discussing with. First is obviously having a voice actor that is clearly voiced by the same actor as Mox, which could mean that 1, Bivsy is very particular when it comes to branching out of her voice acting pool, or 2, this character has some sort of relation to Moxxie. I really hope it's more so the latter. Another thing that is brought up is that this job does not require them to go up to Earth, which is what IMP is mainly known for. The client is also very wealthy with providing transportation to the crew. So the pieces comes as follows. Moxxie and Millie seem to be the focal point, with an ex-boyfriend looming over that could affect their relationship. Not to mention the mysterious client that may be related to Mox that requests IMP's services for a job that has nothing to do with the surface world. It comes into question as to how all of these pieces can fit in this puzzle. And it's an exciting one at that.
Oh, no, 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 no! There's my boy. Get over here and give your daddy a hug. Daddy?
Called it! This scene shows a large part of the ingredients this episode has laid out for us, with the debut of the ominous client being Moxxie's dad. So we know that this is going to be a family business. What's intriguing is that on his way to meet his father for the first time, we got more hints of it being the case as we're introduced to Moxxie's hometown in... not a mafia town in Greed. We see a lot of pedestrians that are killing each other that have similar features to Moxxie. Plus, this is a part of the underworld that has the most distinction compared to other places we have seen in Helluva Boss, with an emphasis on green rather than the blast of red we usually see, which is pretty obvious why the color was chosen. Still, it's definitely nice to see a different color focus for a change within the show, as I think it helps pop the colors of the characters a lot more while in this setting. With Moxxie's body language changing dramatically when he realizes what was happening, and Millie's questions about not meeting his father up until now, it was clear that this was a past he never wanted to go back to. Unfortunately, baggage could find their way back when you least expect it.
What are we doing here, sir? You know there's no business before dinner. Besides, we're still waiting on one more.
The pieces are now together in one space. What makes it more interesting is that Chad not only dated Millie, but he dated Moxxie too. which immediately puts the story into the love triangle zone. Now, Chad definitely screams the obnoxious X, because his whole introduction shows that he is definitely the X in the word obnoxious. We now get the history of how Moxxie and Chaz have met, and we learn that Chaz screwed him over. But he also gave Moxxie an out from the lifestyle Mox was dealt with due to meeting Blizz right after the incident. It shows the kind of person Chaz is: extremely egotistical, incredibly sex-crazed, and definitely selfish. Obviously, this only caused more tension between Millie and Chaz because, no offense, that's really all I can say about her as a character. A very snappy woman that really cares about her husband. Nothing wrong with that, but it would be nice to dive into her more. I digress. Though the ball was dropped that Chaz is going to be welcomed in the family, because if you remember what Millie was ranting about earlier, the shark has some stacks on him. The family is in a bit of a financial burden and needs someone to help Mox's family stay above water. There's a problem with that though. It's basic knowledge that a mafia isn't some kind of club you could just hop into anytime you want. So it was strange for Chaz to be granted a spot. However, we know that in order for that to happen, Mox has to be involved in some way.
So, you think you're too good for this family now?
What?
You think you're gonna just get to walk away from this family and never come back? You're dead wrong, Mox!
Cool! Crimson is crappy father number 175 in this show. Seriously, it seems like all the characters have daddy issues. However, what I like about this is that we see the different types of poor dads. For Crimson, he's clearly abusive and controlling considering that he is the godfather of this crew. Not to mention he is extremely homophobic, but he'll let it slide to gain more financial income. Though, this is where we finally dive into the issues a lot of bisexuals tend to face. Obviously, Chaz and Moxxie are both bi since they both dated Millie and each other. However, a good percent of people tend to not view bisexuality as legitimate, from both sides of this discussion. It's not often from those who are homosexual, but it does tend to happen. Look at those who see it as the sexually confused group. Obviously, those that are like Crimson feel that there is no difference. Any sexual attraction to the same sex, you're gay. It can't be viewed as anything else. Even if Moxxie is in a dedicated and healthy relationship with Millie. However, with Crimson knowing that a person like Chaz can't just join the family, the only way he can is if he decided to marry in. Which is why Moxxie is here. Yeah, Crimson is literally forcing Moxxie to get married to Chaz. You can only imagine the amount of levels of how messed up this is. Going out of his way to call his son's workplace to lure him to come home and force this ultimatum on him. The flashback to Moxxie's past gives us a glimpse of the amount of abuse Crimson was willing to dish out, and how different his care was compared to Mox's mother. It was clear that Moxxie got his traits from his mom more than his father, with her being willing to help Mox cut his food and give him praise when he practices his shooting, while Crimson shows his lack of sympathy, not wanting to help his son learn the proper way to cut meat, and wanting his son to shoot a target that's an actual person. It's clear the two have had arguments and they usually get physical with each other. What makes things worse is that we get a hint that Crimson decided to off his own wife, and Moxxie was forced to get his hands dirty. He made it clear that this was a lesson to never cross Crimson, or expect your life to be cut short swiftly.
Like what I've done with the place?
Ugh! Just get out of here!
Come on, Mox!
I have a lot of sympathy for Mox here. No one can even imagine getting dumped all this emotional baggage at once and expect to be okay. He's also someone that does get pushed around quite a lot when it comes to his emotions, and his care for Millie's feelings is just as strong. So it comes to no surprise that Moxxie held that information back from his wife. His fear of his father is incredibly strong, and he was stuck with an incredibly difficult choice of protecting her and going through with it, or they both deal with the wrath of his father. Let's not forget about Chaz wanting to rekindle that spark that they had back in the day. Since Crimson set up the rooming arrangements, I'm sure he and Chaz were the ones that planned the two to room together for intimacy, which worked as well as you'd expect. He still got his, but the clear desperation from these two is a lot, with them trying to set up this trap. When discussing arranged marriages, parents try to do everything to make sure they spend as much time together, forcing them to become intimate with the partner they are assigned to. This all stems from the lack of agency Moxxie has when he's in that house. However, Mox has made his life for the better after meeting Blitz, and he does not want to jeopardize what he was able to achieve when going under his wing. So he stuck with these two options: the fear of his father or the love for his wife.
Okay, fucker, nobody who's that bad in bed can score two hotties that easily. I know you gotta be hiding something. Oh, fuck that. No one fucks with Eminem's marriage but me. Oh.
Of course, there is the truth of the matter on Chaz's desperation and trying to join the family. There's a lot of questions as to why he's going this way to join the Mafia, especially considering the state it may be in financially. There are some thoughts of trying to force his way back into Moxxie's life, or perhaps he wants to gain some sort of protection or higher status by being officially a part of the Mafia as a right-hand man. Even so, it shows that there's a large amount of deception and control from all parties trying to force Mox to submit.
What you looking so glum for, kid? It's your wedding day! Best day of your life! I'm not doing it. I'm leaving, Dad. And if you try to stop me, you'll learn firsthand just how good I've gotten at my job.
Moxxie's decision was bold, but in the end was the right one. His care for Millie should be stronger than anything else that could affect it. But of course it does come at a cost, as Crimson will do anything to make sure he gets what he wants, even if it means attacking his own son and taking out his friends in order to grab what he desired. It didn't take long for Millie to find out when she found Blitz, and that's where the fun really begins. I gotta say, this fight sequence jumped up to one of my favorites from the show. Every part of this scene was played to perfection. Moxxie being the usual damsel in distress was a bit funny and fitting to Crimson's viewpoint of his son being sissy. The dildos being used to fill the seats was hilarious, and witnessing some of the background characters getting really into their seating was definitely a way to make you chuckle once you notice it. The song is a huge banger, and we see the full angry wife mode unleashed on these souls. While this was all going on, hearing Crimson being full-on misogynistic while Millie is demolishing his goons was a great touch. The action scenes have always been very top-notch no matter the situation, and they used that high pace with the large amount of gore to perfection. This was the definition of a girl boss moment, and it was a fun ride seeing her fight for her man and make a statement to Moxxie's dad.
By the way, y'all should probably know, Chaz isn't even rich, okay? Check his car.
Millie, thank you for saving me. You're amazing.
Next time, just tell me if your dad is a psychopath.
I can handle it.
So yeah, Chaz is dead because he got outed, and Moxxie and the rest of IMP is now on his father's hit list. Which honestly is the most interesting scene that Helluva Boss has planted so far. I do consider Moxxie to be one of my favorite characters within the show purely for relatability purposes, and I'm glad that they used this episode as an opportunity to talk about not only his sexuality, but also how certain folks treat him because of his orientation and how he doesn't seem to have a lot of agency in most cases. I also think this gives Millie more potential in expanding her character and gives their relationship more layers now that Crimson is going to target them. I will say though, very nitpicky on my end, I know, but as someone who has done a bit of voice acting, there were definitely some moments where I felt like there should be some grunts and sighs in certain moments so there wouldn't be any awkward silences. Like with Luna in the opening and ending scenes, or with Crimson taking the L on the whole marriage thing. Those portions felt a bit awkward with the silence when it was clear that the characters were expressive in those moments. Chaz was a fun one-off character as well, and definitely a great layer to add to Moxxie. But I can't lie, it would have been nice to dive into his relationship with Millie as well prior to his death, since those two clearly have history. While the topic of bisexuality wasn't the main one, it definitely gives a great glimpse with people who are in that umbrella. Plus, I'm just glad there wasn't an actual threesome involved in this episode.